Hello.
Yes, sir. Your voice is audible.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Sir, session is going to be started by our Shiny madam, by
Okay.
reading your profile. And next, you can give your lecture, sir.
Sure. Sure. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Please wait, sir. Please wait.
Yeah.
Before starting our session, let me introduce our guest of honor of today, Dr. Manu Sharma. Dr. Manu Sharma holds PhD in Economics from Birla Institute of Technology and Sciences, Pilani. He has qualified UGC NET JRF in Economics. He carries a learning approach towards international events and their economic implications, innovative methods of teaching, which involve student-friendly interactions. Dr. Sharma has published research articles in reputed international journals and is also an active reviewer for various peer-reviewed journals published by Emerald, Springer Nature, and Sage. He has also presented his research works at national and international workshops and conferences. Presently, Dr. Sharma is working as assistant professor in Department of Economics, Alliance University, Karnataka. One thing I want to share with you all about Sharma sir is when I approached him through LinkedIn, I being stranger to him, he responded to my message and accepted my invitation to deliver a talk. That much he is passionate and dedicated to teach students and spreading knowledge. That's why he is with us today. I'm very privileged to have you here with us today, sir. And we rarely get opportunity to listen to such great personalities. So let's utilize the session. Welcome, sir. I welcome you on behalf of Bapatla College of Pharmacy to deliver your valuable lecture, and I hand over the session to you, sir. Thank you.
Uh, Thank you so much, ma'am. A very good morning to one and all present here. Before I begin, I would like to actually express my gratitude to the Institute, Bapatla College, and Professor Shiny for actually extending this kind invite to me. So I will briefly talk about.
Sir,
Uh, yes.
sir, do you have any PPT to
Yes.
share,
Yes.
sir?
Yes, sir.
You can share now, sir. You can share now.
Yes. 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 Just a minute.
Okay.
Is it visible, sir? My PPT?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Make it full screen, sir.
Yeah. Just let me know whether the slides are moving or not.
Yeah.
So as I've told, I'm really grateful for the invite, especially for to Professor Shiny for extending this kind invite to me to actually to be able to, I'm really grateful for that I would be able to interact with the young people. And that's the best part about academia, that we always in touch with the young minds. So I always see it as a mutual learning. So I would be talking about in today's discussion, I would be talking about market research for startups, laying the foundation for success. So what actually are startups? So before moving on to how market research can basically help us in, giving some what actually, where actually lies the lacuna and the gaps, it is actually better to understand first that what actually are startups. So startups are young companies founded to develop a unique product or service and bring it to market and make it irreplaceable for the customers. Now the question is, what makes them irresistible and irreplaceable? Rooted in innovation, a startup aims to remedy deficiency of existing products or create entirely new categories of goods and services, which is actually disrupting the entrenched way of thinking and doing business for entire industries. So that's why we call startups disruptors. Here I want to bring focus to certain words that here I have utilized in this presentation. What makes these startups, you know, that they come up with basically as a remedial measure for the deficiencies of the existing products? How do they actually find the deficiencies in the existing products? And how they are actually able to disrupt the market? That's what the question lies. So you may be familiar with the famous startups in big tech such as Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, and we collectively call that as FANG stocks. So given this, how we actually are able and how that can actually help us in building the startup. So again, what is a startup? Startups are ventures that aim to revolutionize industries and make a significant impact on world, all while achieving substantial growth. So the founders of these startups envision fulfilling unmet societal needs by introducing innovative products or services that can basically result in impressive valuation that can eventually lead to an initial public offering and extraordinary returns on investment. But again, the question remains in the definition itself of startups, how they are actually able to revolutionize the industries, how they are actually can make a significant impact on the world. So how the founders of these startups basically envision those unmet societal needs, how do they actually find out? The question lies in market research. The answer lies actually in the market research. They are actually able to comprehend and understand various facets of market, right? And in market research is basically complement startups. So market research is a crucial step for many companies before actually they are starting up their business. It basically helps them to gather valuable insights about the market, the target audience, what are their competitors, what are the potential opportunities. So we can basically startup and market research are kind of inseparable entities, where startup basically, I would say the laying foundation would be of any startup is market research, which can basically complement them in terms of gathering information, what are the types of, you know, competitors they may face, and what are the kinds of potential opportunities that lie in the chosen path. Now, moving to the next slide, we will be talking about some of the well-known companies that utilized market research before launching their businesses. If you and I have an idea, however good or noble that idea may be, we need to do some groundwork on that. How actually we are going to basically implement that idea in terms of business? How are we going to set up a business? Before that, we require a groundwork, a thorough groundwork, where it's basically complemented by the market research, just to find out what actually are your competitors, what is the condition of the market, what is the potential of the market in next 5 years, let's say. So before that, we must understand the condition of the market through market research. Now, moving on to the next slide, we will take up some examples of some renowned companies which basically utilize market research before setting up their business. So we call that market research in action. If I talk about Airbnb, so you must be aware about this name. So before becoming a global vacation rental platform, Airbnb founders conducted extensive market research in 2007. They attended industry conferences, examined the hotel industry's pain points, and interviewed potential customers to understand their preferences and needs. So this research informed their decision to create a platform where people could rent out spare rooms in their homes to travelers. So Airbnb utilized this before actually coming to the market. They did their groundwork. They actually attended various conferences and examined what are the pain points of the industry, what is that the customer is seeking, and how he or she is not getting that. So based on that gap, actually they built their system, their business, and it's no surprise that they are one of the topmost startups today. If I talk about Uber founders again initially launched a black car service called Uber Cab in 2009. So before expanding their business model, they again conducted market research to understand what is the demand in the transportation sector, what are the preferences of the potential riders, and what are the challenges faced by the traditional taxi services. So this research helped them pivot and evolve the ride-hailing giant that we know today. So the Uber founders basically searched the market in the transport sector, met with the customers, and what they found out what are the lacunas or weak points in the existing transport system, which are basically unmet by this, let's say, these trend of taxi services, and how they can extend that, how they can enhance the experience of the customer. That's what they did, and that's why they are successful. Again, if we talk about the next startup, a renowned startup, Dropbox. Drew Houston, the founder of Dropbox, conducted extensive market research before launching the cloud storage. Okay, he identified the actual need for a seamless file sharing solution and validated the demand through surveys and interviews with the potential users. So once you find out if there are, let's say, these are the points where actually we can work on, and these are the points where actually the market is not providing, again, you have to validate. Once you provide a solution, you have to validate. You have to talk to, let's say, you are planning to start your own business. So you need to discuss it with your inner circle. Let's say first you have to validate it through your family persons, your friends, your inner circle. Then you can talk about the experts, extend it to the experts as well. So then you can take what they feel about your idea. That's how you can validate your idea. So that's where the market research can help you. So when I talk about the Dropbox, this research basically enabled him to fine tune the product and target the right audience, right? Let's take another example of Tesla. So before launching its first electric vehicle, Tesla too conducted a market research to cause interest in electric cars, and basically to identify who will be the potential adopters, the early adopters. What are the viewpoints of their customers? What are their attitudes, preferences about the product, and how well they are, and how much they are willing to pay for the product. So this is where the market research can actually help you in understanding the research gaps, we call that. In research also, a lot of professors who are involved in research and research scholars would be aware that before actually coming to any article, we do the literature review. We get to know what is actually the contemporary literature and the past literature has been about on this particular topic. Let's say in your pharmacy, if you take up any research issue, you must be aware about the existing studies on the same topic. Then only you can actually move further, or let's say move ahead with your research. And similar is the case here with the startup. You must do your groundwork before coming to the business, before coming to the field. Similarly, if we talk about Warby Parker, an online eyewear retailer, conducted market research to understand the eyewear industry and the pain points experienced by the customers. They surveyed potential customers about their preferences. What do they like? Their concerns, and what are their shopping habits? Now, this research led to the development of direct to customer model, which is basically offering, then he could basically offer affordable, stylish glasses, and thus disrupting the traditional eyewear industry. So what Warby Parker did is actually he did again a market research, and based on the feedback given by the customers, that what are the pain points of the customers, what are they care about, what are their shopping habits, what are their again the preferences, and what are their pricing concerns. Based on that, he rolled out his startup. Similarly, Jepos, before becoming a prominent online shoe retailer, Jepos founder conducted market research again to understand the customers' hesitations about buying shoes online. So he established a strong customer service approach, basically to overcome this online platform and build trust with the potential customers. Then that is what became a key differentiator for the company, and and that is what it was lacking earlier in the existing shoe industry, let's say, which is basically tied up to in an online uh, setup. Now let's talk about the famous company you must be aware about, Facebook. So Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, started the platform initially as a social networking site only for the Harvard University students. Now he gathered their feedbacks, their insights, okay, from the initial users, basically those Harvard students, to be able to understand how they use the platform and what features were most valuable to them. Then he improvised on the feedback, whatever he got from his fellows, his friends and students. He improvised that, and this iterative approach allowed Facebook to expand to other universities, and eventually, now we observe that that has become a global social media giant. So in all of these examples that we have discussed here, you may be noticing one crucial aspect of every example of the startup. That is market research. How they actually found in the market what actually the market was not able to provide, what the existing industry was lacking. Okay. what the customers actually require, or what are their paying capacities, what are their preferences. How do we get to know about these points? The answer lies in doing the market research before entering the market, before starting actually with business. It's important to know what is actually, existing in terms of the contemporary. Let's say you are planning to launch a product, then you have to first explore and find what are your potential competitors and what they are providing, and what is the unique point that you are planning to provide. That's then only it can actually make you different from others. So in these examples, we found that how market research can play a crucial role in shaping a company's strategy, product development, and it can basically have an impact over the overall success. It helps entrepreneurs make informed decisions and tailor their offerings to meet the need of their target audience effectively. If we have an idea about starting a business or launching a product, we must be aware through market research what are the existing products, like what are the the competitors, what are their weaknesses, their strength, and what is the unique thing that you are going to offer. Now, if we talk about India, India is growing in terms of, you know, uh, in terms of the number of startups. If you observe it, if you Google it, how many startups we are actually having right now, the list is endless, and they are growing in numbers. So let's talk about India's startup ecosystem a bit here. So we observe that it is now a growing startup ecosystem. We observe growing startup ecosystem in India. India has emerged as a major player in the global startup landscape with a rapidly growing ecosystem that includes thousands of startups across various sectors. And we know certain places which are very much, we can call them hubs, startup hubs. So the major startup hubs in India are Bengaluru, Mumbai, Delhi NCR, Hyderabad, Chennai. Now these cities are basically known for their vibrant entrepreneur culture and access to talent and resources. We are also witnessing a significant number of startup unicorns, okay, privately held startup with a valuation of over 1 billion. So to name a few, you must be aware about Flipkart, Paytm, Ola, Baiju, Zomato, Swiggy. Some of them are having global presence. Now we know that the government support is somewhat comes very handy when you're starting up. So the Indian government has launched various initiatives to support startups, including Startup India program, which provides, financial incentives, tax benefits, and a simplified regulatory framework for startups. But we observe that the dominance here in India is basically of fintech. Okay, so India has a fintech sector. It has seen a remarkable growth, offering innovative solutions in digital payment, lending, wealth management, and more. So you must be aware about Paytm, PhonePe, Razorpay. They have made their significant impact in the space. We have also witnessed this e-commerce boom, and I think COVID has also played a role in that because of this sudden shift in the trajectory. But it has been gradually, moving to a growth path, to a growing. We can see a growing trend in that particular sector. So India's e-commerce market also has witnessed exponential growth, driven by players such as Flipkart, Amazon India, which have transformed the way Indians shop online. So these are basically building India. So in a very different, in a kind of a startup hub, we can say. Now, let's talk about the global significance. India has long been known for its IT and software services industries, which has played a crucial role in global outsourcing and IT services. India is growing. India's growing startup system has attracted attention from international investors as well, leading to significant funding and cross-border collaborations. We also know that startups are the major contributor for the employment generation in the country. So providing employment opportunities to the country's young and talented workforce is one of the contribution these startups are doing, and they are having impact on the society as well. So some of the startups actually take up this theme. Many Indian startups aim to address the social and environmental challenges, and they try to promote sustainable and inclusive development. We also are aware that there are several startups we just discussed. There are several startups which actually have a global presence, and they are making their mark on the global stage. We also observe that Indian startups have been at the forefront of innovation in various fields, including AI, healthcare, renewable energy, agri-tech, to name a few. So India's startup ecosystem continues to evolve rapidly, and its impact on the global startup landscape is expected to grow significantly in the coming years. As the world's second most populous country with a booming digital economy, India remains an exciting destination for innovation and entrepreneurship. Okay. So let's talk about the importance of market research for startups. Now, as we are aware of certain points, that the market research can give to us, like it can help us in identifying the market segments, target market segments, and understanding customer needs. So you must be aware about this term, market segmentations. So basically, market research is basically dividing the market, okay, that can be based on any attribute. Let's say we can divide the market on demographic characteristics, okay, on the on how old they are before actually rolling your product in the market, so that you can better understand the customer needs. Let's say you are talking, let's say you are planning to launch a product for, uh, let's say for school going kids. Let's say you are planning an innovative bag for them, school bag. So obviously you are targeting a certain portion of the market, and there is an age limit for that. So you are targeting that particular segment of the market. So before actually going in the market with the business, you need to find out what are actually their tendencies, what are their preferences of your customers, what are actually they complain about the most, what are those points. So before going into the market, it is always important to analyze the current prevailing market conditions, your customer base, their preferences, their dislikes, okay. And again, market research helps in doing that. So if we talk about again the second point, it helps you to basically analyze your competitors, okay. and what is that you are going to offer which is basically different from what they are offering. Okay, so that is also, again, we can call it as one of the most important aspect of market research for startups. Again, when we talk about analyzing the market demand, so it helps you causing market demand and whether there are potential growth prospect available or not in the future. Where do you see yourself with this product in, let's say, next 5 years? So that is somewhat, I think, market research may be crucial for the startups before we actually begin with the business. It also helps in minimizing risk and making data-driven decisions. Okay, if let's say you are planning a certain product or certain business and it has a lot of let's say substitute products in the market, and there is before analyzing it you are actually rolling out your product, so it is somewhere you are taking a risky decision. You are not aware that how much different is your product is, let's say, related to the other substitute products which are there in the market. So that's what I think the market research can help basically to, that's how it can basically help you to minimize the risk and making a data driven decision. Then now there can be basically in two, we can divide the market research in two broad categories. Okay, this one is basically primary research and the other is secondary research. So primary research involves collecting data firsthand, okay, through surveys, interviews, focus groups, and observations. And on the other hand, the secondary research utilizes existing data from published sources like market reports, government publications like RBI, NSSO, okay, and MOSPI. There are many basically sources of government publications and industry studies. So why do actually we need these two types of data? To answer that, to make an informed decision, right? So in the primary research, why we opt for primary research? Because there are certain aspects, there are certain areas where the data is not available by the secondary research. Okay, so and there can be many other international sources as well. As I come from economics, so there can be many other sources for the secondary data in terms of financial data and other, such as International Monetary Fund provides us data on, let's say, some monetary aspects, balance of payment, and other, what is the GDP quarterly and all. And similarly, RBI also provides us the secondary data. But there are certain features, like let's say you have to roll a product in the market, but you are not aware that what are the consumers likes and dislikes. So you can basically plan a survey, and through the survey, and the survey has to be a little brief so that the customer doesn't, or the the one who is getting interviewed doesn't feel like offended that you are taking 1 hour or 2 hour. So it has to have some crisp questions. Okay, so there are also differences in surveys, interviews, focus groups, and observations when we talk about primary research. So in surveys, you are actually designing a questionnaire. Based on that, you are actually getting to know your the target audience or something like that. But then again, there are certain aspects that you must ensure before coming to the before beginning your survey, that how a question should be, how many options you should keep, and whether that particular survey answers your query that you are actually, your research question, okay, or the target that you trying to achieve. Similarly, in interviews there is a difference. In interviews there are basically open-ended questions that can actually go in detail, which is unlikely in surveys we observe. in primary survey and designing a question. So interviews can be, in length, and the questions can be open-ended there. Then you can also, through observation as well, if the extent of the market is not that big, you can basically observe the market, like what customers are doing, what your target customers are actually doing, what they are complaining about. Simple observation can also help you. That can also be considered as a primary research. So that can also be considered as a primary research, simple observation of the customers. Okay, so these are the two types of, we can say, market research. Basically depends on what type of data you are utilizing, whether it is already published or you are trying to, through interviews, trying to get it. Now these are the 6 major steps in conducting a market research before actually starting up. So first is, what actually is your research objective? What is actually your target? Let's say, okay, what is your goal? What is that you want actually to know? Questions you want to answer through your market research. Then you have to identify the target market. You have to define who is basically your ideal customer profile and in what segment the market they lie. Then you have to make a choice of an appropriate research method. Okay, that involves some statistics, and in our case that may involve some econometrics as well, some software as well. So initially you can utilize Excel and then you can move on to, so select appropriate primary and secondary research methods based on what are your objectives and what is the budget you are having. Then you can go for conducting surveys, interviews, gathering, information from the reliable sources, from the secondary sources, whatever it is. But you have to be, you have to ensure whether these data or these informations is actually answering what you are trying to search. Once you have the data, once you have collected the data, now the question comes, how do you infer from the data? How do you interpret the data? So that involves using softwares. Okay, that involves statistics. That involves that's up to you and up to the task basically. So simple Excel can also do. In our research, we basically utilize various softwares such as Stata and eViews. I don't know like whether you are aware about this since it is not your field, but simple Excel can do. In sometimes you can basically plot the data points and you can find out the frequencies and all basic statistics you can do. So once you have the data, let's say you have conducted a survey and you have 600 observations or 600 questionnaires you have actually filled. Now you have to feed that information to the Excel, and then you have to actually make a decision out of it, draw a conclusion out of that. Okay, so that conclusion we basically call a data-driven conclusion, and based on that you can recommend startup, or you can find out what actually is your customer base, what actually they are lacking, what is the existing industry lacks. So something like that is a general process for actually conducting the market research. Moving on to the next slide. With the help of the market research, we can analyze, because it is always important to analyze the competitors. Only then we can actually develop a competitive advantage over them. So that's basically helps to take an edge over the existing the suppliers of the product, or let's say your competitors on your rivals. And there are many tools and strategies for competitor analysis, and SWOT is one of them that we will discuss about. So what is that SWOT? SWOT is basically strength, S stands for strength, weakness, opportunities and threats. The analysis of these 4 points. Now there are 2 points which are basically of internal origin, and there are 2 points which basically represent external origin, that is attributes of the environment. External origin and internal origin, these are the attributes of your organization. Okay, so when we talk about the internal origin, we are talking about that is basically inherent to the firm or your company or that. External origin, that is not in your that is not in your company's hand, or let's say it's basically exogenous. Okay, so this is the basic idea of SWOT. So what are the factors? Okay, so moving on, in the internal aspect, we have to actually analyze. We can analyze our own organization as well as the other one, the competitors as well. It can be helpful in both of these cases. So in strength, we can basically talk about what are the advantages of our organization. Okay, in weaknesses, we can talk about what are the areas basically where we actually need to work on, and the areas where we actually need to improve. Then we can talk about the opportunities. Okay, what are the external factors that may contribute to your organization and can build up your strength or your competitor? You can analyze these based on these 4 points, your competitor as well. And then what are the threats basically? What are the potential problems or risk which can be caused by the external factors that your organization may face? So in terms of a COVID pandemic, we can talk about what are the threats basically which were not in the hand of the private institutes and universities. What are the threats they faced during the COVID-19 and how basically they overcame that? Okay. Excuse me. Now let's talk about a firm in a renewable energy market. Okay, this is just a hypothetical example here. So what are the strengths? We have pinpointed the strengths of it. Let's say it is having a low labor cost, strong specialization in electric services, and let's say it has an established business already, so it has a brand name and it has a good relationship with major investors. Now what are the weaknesses? We are talking about the internal factors, SWOT, SW. So W stands for weakness. Lack of expertise in renewable energy, lack of capital, lack of industrial partners, lack of interaction with major stakeholders and policymakers, and low R&D capability. Because about the renewable energy system, we know that it requires extensive R&D funding. Okay, so then what are the opportunities? The opportunities are basically, as we have told, as we have discussed this earlier, that it is basically about the external factors which can basically contribute towards your business or towards your competitor's business. We can analyze both of them. So government is providing 2 years, let's say, government subsidies in that particular field. It's a fast growing sector, renewable energy, high social acceptance, and we know that there is going to be high prices for oil and coal, right, in the coming period of time, and they are going to be, they are going to reduce over a period of time. So, and then there is a well established legal framework for storage, manufacturing, and transport. So these are the opportunities in this sector. Then what are the threats? The potentially high R&D expenses, okay, that you have to incur to remain in the business. So that is something, okay, and high waste management fee, okay, and then there is large competitors, okay, and which are having a majority of the market share. Now let's do a SWOT for Nike. What are the strengths of this company? It has strong brand awareness, right? It has a large customer base, and it is right now aiming for sustainable growth. It has iconic relationship and excellent marketing capabilities. Now, what are the weaknesses it is basically facing? Poor labor conditions in foreign countries. Okay. Retailers are having greater control over the product pricing. It has a huge outstanding debt. Okay, and I think the major part of, let's say, 30 to 40% of the revenue comes from the US market. So it has a high dependence on US market. Okay, what are the opportunities? It is an emerging market. Okay, in this innovative products, and nowadays due to the technologies, the integration part, in the supply chain is getting very efficient. So these are the opportunities. Now again, what are the threats it faces? It faces increased competitive pressure. Okay, counterfeit products, and again, since it has a a global presence, it also faces foreign currency exchange risk. So this is the SWOT analysis for Nike. Moving on, we can do it for our own, national brands as well. If we talk about Patanjali, what are the strengths? We know that it is related to Ayurveda and herbal, which is basically for the well-being of, the body and all. And they have a good image in the customer's mind. The pricing strategy they are having is basically their strength. They are having strong distribution channels, and they are having a goodwill of the people, word of mouth promotion. Okay, and they are launching new products also. And there is, in today's time, there is a great exposure of e-commerce also. They have like online presence as well. So these are the strength of this particular company. Now, what are the weaknesses? It has a lot of reliance on Baba Ramdev, the current pricing strategy. So the same factor, which can be basically a strength, can become a weakness also. So when I talk about that it is launching new products, I am also in the weakness highlighting that it has excessive product offerings, which is basically difficult to monitor, like how they are moving and going in the market. So it is difficult to, basically manage these number of, different products. Okay. And one of the weakness we can basically state that they have a limited presence in the international market. Okay. Now, what are the opportunities? We know that in this, people are getting more and more conscious after the COVID shock as well, and before that also in the health sector, a lot of promise is there. So since it is a natural and herbal products, and it has a global market, though Patanjali has not been able to actually, make its way, but it definitely can in the upcoming time, and it can have rural expansion as well. And what are the threats? It can basically, it can have a negative publicity, okay, increase in competition, and basically a lot of things lies on harvest. So anytime that can also pose a threat. Poor harvest can be one of the exogenous, that is not in the hand of the company, that is basically dictated by the external environment. So poor harvest can be one of the threats that it can face. So it needs to basically, uh, uh, increase its presence in different portfolios or something like that for the raw materials or raw products basically it is sourcing from. Now, Let's talk about Netflix. You must have this. I think you are aware about this brand. A lot of this students must have this. What do you say? Subscription to Netflix. But before that, you must be. Are you aware that what are the basically the strength and weakness, opportunities and threats it is having? So when I talk about Netflix strengths, excuse me, when I talk about its strength, then it's a global brand. Okay, it's associated with video streaming, and it has its own unique content. We are aware about it. It has a strong customer base, right? And it has you know a huge marketing already been done. It has established market. Now what are the weaknesses it is facing? Internal, we are talking about the internal factors. The business model can easily be, let's say, replicated by the other companies. In 2019, Netflix had 19 billion long-term debt associated with content and a net income of 1.87 billion. So rising debt is one of the issue. Then content portfolio. Many of its big hits in recent years have finished leaving it vulnerable in the US market. User experience. The recommendation engine needs a refresh and link with AI, to improve. That is something gradually goes on. So you need to improvise on what you are offering to your, customers. What are the opportunities? International growth. Okay. Growth opportunities in China, India, South America through partnerships. We are aware that how much India, China can offer to the world in terms of number of customers. Okay. Since we know that it doesn't give local content, okay, so it can also be one of the opportunity if it ties up with the other, local brands or something like that. So which can basically increase its customer base. So it can increase the potential of that. Okay. So to increase its unique offering and draw for audience, it needs to have more owned content. Okay. It can go for acquisitions as well. Okay. In the coming time to improve its technology or expand its market penetration. What are the threats it faces? Competition. There's substantial level of new competition, heavy investment in expansion from existing competitors. China remains still, something where Netflix doesn't have its presence. So, okay, China is a significant market that will influence their future, and Netflix has little to no presence there. Pricing. Netflix has a pricing that is prohibitive for many emerging markets, leaving it exposed to local players who offer lower rates to grab market share. And again, the piracy. The problem of piracy of licensed content is still an issue worldwide and is particularly prevalent in emerging economies. Moving on, we actually highlighted basically in our discussion that market research basically helps in understanding and identifying customer pain points and their preferences. Okay, and how do we go about it? Basically, we talked about certain methods, okay, to basically carry out the market research, such as surveys, customer feedbacks, observation can be one, and focus groups can be one, right? Similarly, market research can basically help us to find market size and potential in the next coming, let's say, in the next 5-10 years, and what is the size of the market. Through market research only, we get to know our customers and basically how the potential size and the future promises. So now, market trends and opportunities. The importance of staying updated with market trends and identifying emerging opportunities is important. Nowadays, after the COVID shock, we observe in the market that health and wellness is in trend, right? Remote work and collaboration is in trend. When we talk about the global warming and other pressing issues that we face today, so sustainable and eco-friendly is always there in trend. E-commerce and digital transformation is there in trend. Electric vehicles and renewable energy is there in the trend. So going with the trend also can basically enhance or improve the chances of getting a startup as a success, right? So let's take an example, and just a normal example. Sustainability and green initiative, let's say, is right now in the trend. So how that can basically impact your startup? So the increasing focus on sustainability and environmentally friendly practices, okay, create a demand for eco-conscious products and services. So you can basically capitalize on the trend. So if your startup is, let's say, manufacturing consumer goods, you can use sustainable materials and eco-friendly productions methods, okay, and you can basically showcase your commitment to sustainability in your market and branding efforts, okay, and that can basically lead to collaboration with the like-minded partners, organizations, to basically amplify your message and expand your reach. So in this, we can also analyze before actually starting up. These are the points, whatever we are discussing is before coming to the market, right? So we have to analyze what is there in the market trend, and market research can also help in that, right? That what is there in the trend makes you conscious about that, and then your startup can be a success. Similarly, it helps you in mitigating risks. Okay, so market research can actually help you in addressing your risk assessment, how much risk you are having, and then help you basically to prepare for it, basically to minimize those risks. So it can help you basically to identify potential pitfalls and what are the challenges which lie ahead. So that's how market research can help you in making an informed decision. So market research is the backbone of informed decision from before you actually starting up. And you can incorporate those market research into your startup strategies to make your startup a success. Again, these are the few illustrations of how they actually those entrepreneurs capitalized on market research to identify a gap in the market. So for Warby Parker, how he actually found a gap in the existing glass industry, okay, eyewear industry, and then how actually he conducted surveys and focus groups to gather data on customer preferences and use that information to design their products and marketing strategy. So this approach also helped them to become a successful billion-dollar company. Similarly, as we have also talked previously as well about Airbnb, how they utilize the research to identify a need for affordable, unique travel accommodations, how they analyze the data on travel trends. Okay, so travel trends can be a secondary, a research method where some companies, let's say, publishing the travel trends, and then you can also go for analyzing consumer behavior through designing your own market research methods such as questionnaire or surveys, and then basically based on that they actually plan for their own marketing strategy and their platform. This provided them a platform. So this approach has helped them become a leading player in the travel industry, valued at over 100 billion now. So in today's discussions, we basically actually emphasized, how market research is a crucial step for many companies before starting up their business. So we talked about how actually it can help to better understand their customers, better understand their markets. It can give them insights about the market, target audience, competitors, and potential opportunities. Thank you. I would like to conclude with this discussion today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
I feel it as a privilege to convey vote of thanks. On behalf of Bapatla College of Pharmacy, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to our speaker, Dr. Sharma sir, for enlightening us with his knowledge and experiences. Thank you, sir, for the wonderful presentation and explanation on the current demands in the market, the groundwork to be done for startup, the preferences of customers and customer needs, quoting different examples, SWOT analysis, market opportunities, trends. And thank you very much for the presentation. Definitely, this session is a guide to our students who are planning for a startup as a career option. We are very thankful to you, sir, for sparing your valuable time with us. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And next, I would like to thank our principal, Dr. T.G.K. Murthy Garu, for his encouragement and support and guiding us in all aspects. Next, I extend my gratitude to all the IIC coordinators and faculty members for their efforts in making arrangements for the session. Lastly, I appreciate all the students for the enthusiastic participation and silent listening. Thank you very much. Thank you once again. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. I end up the session here.